Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dear Diary podcast. I'm your host, Katie, and guys, we have made it to episode 3. 3 is a magical number, which is also my favorite number, by the way. And let's get into the topic of today. So, today I wanted to talk about the effects of toxic parenting. And, honey, with this topic that we're going to be talking about, if I'm calling out a home, and if I'm calling out your home, then definitely comment below and tell me your experience, because I know for me, I definitely grew up in a broken home, and I definitely feel like people in society has portrayed it to us that a broken home is just a parent not living in the same house, or the stereotypical they got a divorce, or like those are actual things that affect people and everything like that. But broken homes are so different, they're so diverse, and I feel like we need to talk about them, because when it comes to the trauma that we experience and the trauma that we have endured, I definitely think it's important for us to put a name on it. Like, we know we've been through these things, but there's no definition. There's no put it in this category or this category to help the healing process. And I definitely want to be able to start that out for you guys. And just to talk a little bit about me, I definitely grew up in a broken home. I was probably like 3. I don't remember how old I was. I was young when my parents decided to get a divorce. And I grew up, all I knew when I grew up was I lived with my mom and my dad lived at our old house. And that was the relationship until my mom passed away. And when my mom passed away, I didn't move in with my dad. My dad at the time, he was a present but not present father at that time. But thank God for healing, restoration, and forgiveness and all that stuff like that. And, he is the best of dads that I've had now, So I'm not living in that. But I'm going to take account for and, talk about the stuff that I have been through, because I feel like sometimes when things do get better, we try to take away the things that we have been through. And it's like, even though things are good now, we still need to work on the things that did happen to us. So just, making that real for myself has definitely helped me a lot along the way as far as moving on with my healing process. And for me, back to resuming what I was talking about, so having that dynamic and growing up with my stepfather at the time, and then going through the trauma that I've been through with him, I definitely have experienced, a lot of different chaos. I've definitely experienced a lot of trauma. I definitely think I've experienced a lot of financial, emotional abuse along the way. Definitely feeling the feeling of neglect due to, I lost my mom at a young age. And also not having my dad there at the time, I definitely dealt with a lot of that type of stuff. And it was definitely people that tried to pitch that, I'm not going to say tried. It was definitely people that pitched in my life. But when you're two parents, those things are your concrete. That's your base. That's your foundation. And my foundation was broken. And my broken home definitely affected me in my adulthood life. And if you're anything like me, who grew up with a parent or a father that is present but not present, and what I mean by that is sometimes we have our parents, we love them dearly. And I'm not even going to hold them to it, because a lot of times they did what they grew up knowing. Like, these are cycles that I'm talking about. Like, physically there, but also absent, or you had a physical present parent, but they were emotionally absent. Like, those are the things that we do experience. And I definitely want to shine light onto those, because those do affect you in your adulthood life. I know for me, I find myself struggling in my relationships, my personal romantic relationships, because I found myself finding men like how my father used to be, and how, physically there, not emotionally present, throughout my whole romantic dating life, struggling. And I kept telling myself, like, I'm not going to date nobody like that. Like, I don't want that, what I used to have. And I kept finding myself in that cycle, because that's all I knew. When you don't know better, you do what you know. You know what I mean? So doing that and how it affected my romantic relationships, I found myself struggling, trying to find love in the wrong ways. And if you're anything like me, you know how much having a absent father affects your life, especially as a young woman and also as a young male. You're not taught your worth, your value, who you are meant to be in this world, how they love you in this world. Like, you trying to go looking for love in all different directions, and it's not something that you intend to do, but we do those things, searching, yearning, seeking for something that we lacked from our parents. And I know for me too, even with my mom passing, I was yearning for mother's love. Like, I was yearning for that nurturing. I was yearning for that. And unfortunately, it is hard to gain because it's like my mom is not physically here, and it's not her fault. And I also think we have to take account for that some of the things that our parents have put on us, or the things that we experience with our parents, is also not their fault. So when you go through that and you like, I can't, like, who am I to, like, it sounds crazy when I say, oh yeah, I don't like my mom because, my mom hurt me because she died. And it's like, well, Katie, she didn't have no choice. But it's also still like, but I'm hurt. I have to stay true to what I'm feeling. Like, I cannot neglect myself from what I'm feeling, because her death and my father's absence have definitely altered my brain on what it comes to my developing, my thinking, my values, my morals, how I believe to myself. You have some people who experience broken homes, who lived in foster homes, who probably had a absent mom, and you had to live with your grandparents, and you had all these situations where you had parents that were probably really active in your life, but also emotionally abusing you, physically abusing you, financially abusing you, all those type of things, and verbally abusing you. Like, you probably experience all those things even when your parents are in the household with each other. And I just want to shine light on that, because those are things that affect you. Like, I know for me, not having that space to express my emotions because I didn't have nobody to go to, I struggle with expressing my emotions. And those are the things that can be very detrimental. How do I explain to your parents? Like, how do you explain to your parents the things that you've been through? One, without them taking offense. Two, without them making it a guilt trip thing. Or how do I sit here and tell them these things and them acknowledge it without feeling offended, or not feeling like, I'm wrong for feeling the way I feel, or this never happened, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, how do I approach them with this? Because the biggest thing when it comes to healing is forgiveness. And how do I forgive if I didn't even get to tell them what I'm experiencing or what I have experienced? And a lot of the times, parents, sometimes, not all of them, but sometimes parents have this hard time of, when that stage of adulthood, like, they always see you as their child. So when you are in adulthood and you're trying to communicate with them as two adults, they still see you as little Katie, or they still see you as, a child. And it's like, how do I approach without being offensive? And we should be able to be in a situation, emotionally aware, to understand that when people come to you about their feelings and their emotions, there should be no offense, because these are their feelings and their emotions. Nothing should be taken offensively when someone comes to you and tell you how they feel. Again, it's all of how you say it. Yes, it is. You got some people that can be a little rough around the edges, but it should be no offense. And with that being said, it's like sometimes we stop ourselves from even touching the simple fact of what we've been through as a child, because it's like, it's too much. Just the thought of thinking about going to your father and telling him that he was verbally abusive to you, he's going to look at you like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. I gave you a home, and I provided you this, and that, and third. But it's like, okay, yes, you did that, but you had to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had to provide for me. I didn't choose to be here. You know what I'm saying? You made that choice. You made that responsibility. And I think sometimes parents fail to realize that. Not saying that we shouldn't be grateful, not saying we shouldn't be appreciative, but you made that choice, not I. Like, you decided to have children, so that is your duty. You know what I mean? And I shouldn't feel bad for or feeling guilty for the things that you've done for me because you are the parent. You know what I'm saying? And then it's also if you're in a situation where your parents ain't do nothing for you, and now all of a sudden they turn around looking for a handout and they want to take the credit for the things that they done for you and how you achieved all these things. And it's just like, well, you haven't been there. You haven't instilled anything in me. You haven't developed nothing in me. You haven't provided for me. You haven't supported me. And now all of a sudden, that I'm getting to where I need to be to, now you want to support. Now you want to say that that's my kid. But when I was calling you and when I was needing you to be there and just to tell me that, to validate me in any type of way that I needed at the time, when I reached out to you, it was always a shutdown. Oh, I'm gonna do this X, Y, and Z. It was all these, broken records of you want to do this and you never did type stuff. And it's just like, you know what? All these empty promises. You can keep it, even if it's not the dad, it's the mom. You had that estranged mom that came out of nowhere, finally figured out her life, and now she wants to come back in and, be that motherly figure to you. And it's just like, no, thank you. I'm 33 now. I don't need it. I don't need the parenting. If anything, I needed that a long time ago, but right now, no, thank you. And sometimes some parents come in and they try to operate as the parent when they lost those privileges. Like, you lost that. Like, you need to come at me in a different direction, a different space. I'm an adult. I've experienced a lot of things. I dealt with a lot of things. Your absence has affected me. So what do we do with that? And I definitely believe that parents need to learn how to apologize to their children. And it shouldn't be a pride thing. It shouldn't be oh, I'm the adult and you're the child. Like, we lost that after you disrespected me. Where the respect for the titles when I needed you to treat me like a child and actually take care of me and provide for me? Where was that respect for that title? But I'm supposed to respect you for that title because you were the adult. Like, that doesn't make sense. And until we really learn how to really, like, especially these adults, like, once you really learn how to apologize and take accountability. And I feel like taking accountability is something that we also learn from parents as well. Like, you have a lot of parents that enable children. I see it. It's a lot of children out here, that are just for the aesthetics. So now it's for the aesthetics. It's to make you look good. It's to make you feel validated, to make you feel important, And then they live their whole lives thinking that they can do whatever they want. They can say whatever they want to say. These kids don't know how to read, but they know how to do a TikTok. These kids are lacking when it comes to respect because some of them are enabled, and it shows up in their adulthood life. Have you ever met a privileged adult? Besides race, have you ever met a privileged adult? And I promise you, they are intolerable. Like, I promise you, when they think that everything revolves around them and the world got to go their way because the world has always been going their way and their parents made that illusion, it's like, you know what? Hang up on you. Not in the mood. That's a TikTok reference. Hang up on you. Now, I'm not in the mood. I cannot be in a relationship with you. I cannot be friends with you. You're very entitled. You don't see nothing nobody else's way. Your worldview is very small. Like, I can't do it. I will refuse to do it. It's a lot of people in this world that are very intolerable. And I think that is something that we need to be instilling in our children. I'm not saying that you need to be out here teaching your child how to come to everything and be a people pleaser. No. But they need to learn how to respect people. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, the things that our parents have done is affecting us in our adulthood lives. I see so many of our people in my generation having children, and they say that I would never do what my parents did to me, and you're doing the exact same thing that you're doing to your child. Seriously. Like, and I'm coming for some homes. I have to. Look, we gotta address it because there is so many absent fathers. You know how many times I go on Instagram and I'll be seeing the girlies? And shout out to the single moms. Shout out to anybody who's a single parent, because I grew up with a single parent, and I'm telling you, shout out to y'all because I know it's not easy. And I'm not shaming single parents. I'm not shaming anybody who was in a relationship and had a baby and it was unplanned and they just doing what they got to do and they're not in a relationship no more. I'm not shaming. If anything, shout out to you for showing up for that child. Shout out to you for learning how to co-parent healthy. I'm talking about the people that had these children and decided they're not going to be the best benefit for their child. Like, I see so many parents, I see so many men out here got one picture of their child on Instagram to make it seem like they're in their child's lives, but the mom over here complaining and making all these subliminal Instagram posts about how they not there for their child. I gotta do this. Don't worry about it. We good. My family always going to be provided for. And it's just like, well, what's going on in that home? You get what I'm saying? I see so many baby shower pictures with no family. I don't know who the parents are. I just know the mom, no dad, no other partner, nobody else on the other side. And I just can imagine how that might feel. Like, it's just no way that you decided to have a child with somebody and you can't even show up to the baby shower. You can't even buy a gift. The mom has to have a family meeting to talk to all of you guys about how you're going to show up as a dad. You got so many people out here making excuses of why they can't be for their child. And it's just like, well, why'd you lay down and have it in the first place? Because we definitely, as a society, when it comes to sex and all of that, we definitely glamorizing having sex with no protection. If y'all gonna glamorize that, let's talk about the consequences that come with it. Let's talk about it. A child is not an object. This is a real human being who is going to have to deal with emotions and deal with real life things in real life, just like how we had to deal with real things in real life in real time. And that is something that we need to address. Like, I'm so tired of seeing it. I am. And I feel my heart goes out because I see a lot of moms talking about how they got to fight to put the father on child support. They didn't even want to do it in the first place. And then the father want to sit here and act like, oh, she just want my money. You know how many times you talk to a guy? You know how many times you talk to a guy? And he be like, yeah, my baby mom, she just, I love my daughter and everything, but she just want me for my money. Like, that's why we had to break up in the first place. And it's like, sir, you've been unemployed for 2 years. She ain't want you for your money. Like, she is asking you to be in the child's life. You don't want to do that. So at least you can be there financially. But the fact that you don't even want to be there financially and she got to pull you along just to get a check from you monthly, and you got the nerve to be mad at the court and the judge because they granted her the child support and you got to pay $200 a month. Do you know what $200 is? Baby, that's barely a hairstyle nowadays. That is barely food on the table nowadays. Do you know how much a child costs? Baby, the delivery fee, when she lay on that table, that bill is big and it's heavy. It has nothing, like the fact that the judge had to tell you that your child is worth $200 a month and you're still upset about it. That is the part that upsets me. That is the part where I'm like, you know what? We need to talk. Everybody, let's have a sit down. We need to talk because I am so irritated. I am so frustrated when it comes to seeing how we are forming and we're still moving in these cycles. Like I really feel like our generation is the one that we supposed to be like, you know what? We have so much access to more resources when it comes to mental health, when it comes to self-care, when it comes to learning things the right way. We have so many resources and we don't use it. And I'm coming for the moms too, because I know it's a lot of women out here that had babies with this man because they thought that the only way I can be in his life and the only way I can do this is if I had this baby with him. And I'm not saying that you said this out loud, but I know deep down in your heart you had that child because you still wanted to have a piece of that man. And it's showing up. It's showing up in your children. And I don't know if any young man who has had a mom that has been so overprotected, that has been literally, they don't even let you breathe. Because I really want people to know that incest is real. And I'm not saying that your mom is infatuated by you, but there's a lot of moms out here that treat their sons like their husbands. Have everything to say about their girlfriend. Don't like this, don't like that. Oh, she this and she that. And my baby always like my pop better than he don't eat nobody pop of mine. And it's like, ma'am, This is your son. You know, you should want to see him so off and be in the world. But since you decided that you want to live a miserable life, you want your child to go with you. You want your child to be stuck with you. You want your child to be, to do what you want him to do, to be the best man that you want him to be. You want him to be the man that his father was not to be to you. And like, that is real talk. I'm tired of seeing it. I am tired of this fake illusion of that we are doing the best that we can with our children, and I love my child. But it was just like, did you really love your child, or did you have him because you knew your taxes were going to be more when you was going to have him? Like, did you really want a baby? It's okay if you didn't. And I shout out to the women that say, and the men that say, I didn't want to be a parent at first. I'm not even going to sit here and lie to you. By the grace of God, I'm not a parent. Like, anybody who has sexual relations and is not a parent, it could have been you, period. And I have that say that, you know what, if it could have been me. That's why I'm not judging, I'm not shaming, but I am calling out the things that are wrong. It's totally wrong. And it's a lot of parents that say, I didn't want to have a baby at first. And I feel like that is so understandable, especially in this time and this inflation. I think I'm going to mention this inflation every single episode because I am just appalled by this inflation. I promise you I am. But all of it to say is just like, you have a lot of toxic parenting that is still happening to this day. It just looks different. It just looks different. And I know a lot of times with parenting, the basis has always been provide a home, provide food, take them to school. No substance, no teaching anybody what their worth. We got adults out here acting like children because nobody has taught them their worth, taught them how to operate in this world. You still have 50-year-old men acting like 20-year-olds, maybe 20, maybe 18. Why you think they still wearing smiley faces on their pants? Like, why you think they still out here in the clubs trying to date younger women? Let's talk about it, because hashtag, I'm a survivor from that. I'm just saying. But all I'm trying to say is we have to see the pattern. It's a circle that's going around and around and around and around and around, and we need to see it. We need to acknowledge it. Because we have our side talk, and we just let it go. Or we see it and we don't say nothing, and that's the problem. You know how many times we see things and we don't say nothing as a community, as a black community? You have parents who have sexually abused their children. You have parents that have let people come in their homes and sexually abuse their children, and they still don't want to acknowledge it to this day. You have parents that know that their own children sexually abuse their own children, and they still don't want to acknowledge it to this day. I don't want to talk about that. Not right now. Not right now. And they make this big old scene, this big old ambiance, and it's just like, you know what? All right. I'm going to have to do my healing process over here somewhere. I might have to talk to that aunt who I've been through, you know what I'm saying? So we can have that conversation, because I need somebody to make it real for me. And a lot of times we go to our parents to make it real, because sometimes as a child, when we go through these things, it's confusion. It feels like a haze dream. It feel like, did this even happen to me? And when I come to you and you try to manipulate me and my experience because you are upset and you are embarrassed of the choices that you made in your life, now I'm the one that's being affected by it. Now I'm the one that's taking the blame. Now I'm the one that's wrong. And now you're going to call up my aunt and then spread my business out there. And it's just like, you know what? I don't even want to do it. And I don't blame anybody for not going into acknowledging their parents of the things that they've been through, because I totally understand. And I didn't forget about the parents that are also low-key jealous of their child. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, because that is so real. It is so many parents that are jealous of their children low-key. Their children are doing the things that they wish they could have done if they had the resources to do so. But instead of being proud and living through them in that moment, they take it and they make it about them. The only reason why you have your child doing dance is because your dance career ended at 20 because you probably broke your leg. Let's be real. And you got too depressed, and then you met this man, and that's how you got pregnant. You feel me? And then now you're trying to make your child live this lifestyle that you wanted for yourself. And then when it's not working, and then your child, you find out that your child is actually interested in hair, or you find out your child is actually a genius when it comes to math. Now you got an issue. Now you don't want to support. Now you don't got nothing to say, guilt tripping them, manipulating them to fulfill your dreams, to fulfill your satisfactories. And it's like, children, your child is not here on this earth to please you. God called a purpose on their life to fulfill. And you are the ones that front line stopping it. Your child had cut you off for 10 years. And then you want to complain to everybody that you didn't get no Christmas card and how you don't get this and you don't hear from your child. What were you doing in the first place to make sure that didn't happen? Like, we have to address those type of things. And even for the parents, that financially abuse their child. Like, you have to take accountability for that. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do as parents. I've heard many stories, and I've even been in a situation of being financially abused as well. But I've heard plenty of stories about how parents have put stuff in their children's name to, get approved to whatever they need to get approved for, and they didn't even pay that stuff off. And then when their child is ready to move on into this earth and, get their own apartment or get a car or do this and do that and third, they credit bad. And they looking at you like, well, how can this be? And instead of you taking accountability and telling them what your story is, because I'm pretty sure you have a story in the first place of why you did it, you gaslight, manipulate, make it feel like, you know what, you're wrong because I had to take care of you, I had to provide. But it's like, at the end of the day, that's still my life, that's still my choice. And you taking that away from me is crazy. And it's messed up. And that's something that people need to acknowledge as well. Like, financial abuse isn't just, oh, I'm holding your funds over your head. No, it's so many things that come with it. Like, we need to address that. And I didn't forget about the parents here. I'm telling you, I'm lining them up like dominoes, one by one by one. I did not forget about the parents too. And if you've been in this experience, I promise you, you are not alone. And I'm pretty sure it's other people that experience it as you have experienced. But it's people who had multiple children, and sometimes the parents have these unsolidified favorites, and they treat this child better than the other child on purpose. Not by accident, but on purpose. And they put this child on the pedestal, and they put this other child down, and they put this one up, and it's like they want to see a competition. They want to see them to beef, and like they live for the drama. You ever seen parents that live for the drama within their own house? Like, putting the siblings against each other. I've seen that, and that is, to me, that is the most heartbreaking thing, because you're supposed to be a family and unity all together, making sure that you guys conquer the world together, keep the family name going. But you over here dividing them, telling them this one is great and this one is terrible. Like, how do we operate with that? And then again, you wonder why, when you're old and you are low-key on that deathbed, you wonder why nobody want to take care of you. You know how many times I see older people that don't have nobody. I used to work at a nursing home. So many people have in there with no family to visit them, nobody to support them. Nothing decorated in the room. You can tell who's loved and who's not. And then it's like, I question, like, well, what did they put out in the atmosphere to make them receive this type of treatment? You have some parents that actually do good for their children, and they provided everything that they have. And some of these children are selfish, and sometimes they do what they want to do. Now you have those, and shout out to the families and the parents that actually do right by their children. Shout out to y'all. And it's unfortunate to see that your child is treating you like you didn't do right by them. And then if things happen, that you ain't tried your best to make it right. Now, I feel for those parents. And I feel for y'all, because it's like, especially at that age when you're still trying to do better, it feels like it's just never enough. I feel like it's just never ending. Especially at that age, it's like, you know what? You got to wipe your hands, but it's hard to see that. But we also got to question why in the first place. And you also have parents, I'm telling you also have parents that, and gender plays a lot of roles in when it comes to toxic parenting, because unfortunately you have a lot of parents that have treated their sons like the top shelf and their daughters like the bottom barrel. Like, I've seen a lot of parents raise their daughters and just enable their son. You can tell by what their adulthood lives look like. Like, I've seen the guys that don't know how to do nothing for themselves because mommy did everything, daddy did everything. Like, and it would be crazy because I would be on TikTok and it was just like, it's just trend. And I'm like, you sit here and telling me that men don't know how to clean up after themselves? You sit here and telling me that they don't know how to dress up their child? Like, the mom has to do everything? Okay, granted, yes, you want a wife that can cook. Cool, cute. Love that for you. But you don't know how to wash clothes. You don't know how to clean up after yourself. You don't know how to handle your finances. You're always gambling. You're always doing this. You're always doing that. You don't have no self-control. Your wife, the woman in your life, or the person in your partner, whatever, gotta provide, do this, that, and that, third for you. Every time I hear a man say, "Oh, my wife got to do this and she got to be," it kind of scares me because it's like, what type of parent did you have? How was you being treated when you were younger? Because to me, that sounds like you want a housekeeper. That don't sound like you want a partner. You feel me? And then I feel for the women who was raised and to the point where they even had to take the shortcomings of their other siblings. Especially shout out to the firstborn daughters, okay? I see you, I love you, and I send all the support to you because I know how hard it was for you. You were the mom, the sister, the housekeeper, the grandma, the therapist. You were everything and everything, and sometimes playing the father role. You were everything and everything. But what your life looks like now, like we talked about, being hyper independent, struggling when it comes to operating in this world because, you took on so much. You have so much resentment. Some people would just walk around so angry. And it's like, I get it. But it's like, why are we angry in the first place? It's like we carrying so many bags. We carrying so many bags on our back. And it's like, when are we going to let them go? When are we going to let them go? When are we going to learn how to keep moving? When are we going to learn how to tell ourselves that we weren't supposed to be treated like that? Let's do better. Let's be better. Let's see better. Let's let's be better. Let's love better. Let's for ourselves. Like, when are we going to start pouring into ourselves in order to grow? And most of the times we have to acknowledge. And I'm going to keep saying that because it's so real. It was so hard for me to start my healing process because I didn't want to acknowledge the things that I've been through. I was actually very ashamed. I was ashamed. I felt alone. I felt like, because when I talked about my dad the first time about how I felt, it wasn't good. It was like a shutdown, and it was like, you know what, hang up on you. Not in the mood. I can't do it today, because it takes a lot of courage to tell your parent that this is what I've been through. So when you finally get that momentum, and when they look at you and be like, it's just like, you know what, that's cool. I ain't got nothing else to say, and then we live in that and we operate in that, and there's no forgiveness. And then we find ourselves with people that are like our parents. And we like, why do we keep doing that? Like, why do I keep falling for that man? It's like, because he's just like your daddy. And you waiting for your dad to love up on you. And until he do so, and until you acknowledge that you waiting up on him, for your father to acknowledge you and validate you and give the things that you truly deserved as a child, and knowing at the same time that he ain't never going to be able to do it, you're going to still operate in that. And that happens a lot of times with people who grew up with drug addicts and being addicted to alcohol. Like, it's a lot with them. Like, you just waiting for them to get themselves together. They keep telling you that. One day in rehab, one day in jail. Then when they come out, they trying to get their life right. And I'm not saying that they not, but it is a continuous cycle of heartbreak. It's too hard to watch your parents go through that. And, addiction is alone a whole different topic. But when you come with that, when your parent has been through that, or your parent is going through that, it is hard to acknowledge, it is hard to see them that way. And some of us resent our parents for even getting addicted to drugs and alcohol in the first place, and I don't blame you. It is very hard to understand why you love drugs and alcohol more than you love me as your child. And then I still have to find ways to show up for you because I want my parent to be there. Because I live in anxiety because I feel like you are not, like one day you might die, or one day it's going to be to a point where it's no reaching back from return. You know? And they missed out on so many things in your life. And you've seen the other parents struggle with that addiction and how it affected them. And now you're living in and operating in different things too. My parents are addicted to X, Y, and Z. And I have to realize that, it's not about me. It's not about what I could have done, or what my mother could have did, or what my father could have did. I just got to realize that this is something that they're dealing with on themselves. And having to have that strength to give grace can be so hard. But shout out to you if you are doing it. And if you are not, hopefully one day when you start your healing process and you start that journey of forgiveness, you will be able to learn to give grace. And these are the things that really affect people. Like, we don't talk about it. Like, we talk so much crap about adults. Like, she this, she that, blah, blah, blah. Or, did you see him today? Did you hear what he had to say out his mouth? Like, but we don't talk about why they like that in the first place. Why is he so intolerable? Like, I could tell that when a man hates a woman so much, it's because he hated his mom. His mom put him through hell, honey. His mom put him through so much. It's ridiculous. This man has so much pent up energy towards women, and how he don't like this and he don't like that, and how he been through this and how he been through that, and my woman got to be this way and that way. It is like, what was your mom like growing up? What did she do to you to make you hate women so much? And we don't talk about that, but a lot of times some men have grown up with their moms being watching them get abused, and now they putting their hands on women. You feel me? Like, or they watch their mom get abused and they watch their mom settle for less than what she deserved. Like, you probably had your mom dating these men that were no good, didn't do nothing for the household, didn't do nothing, didn't provide, didn't be an advocate for you. They just in your house, stinking up the place, watching the game, not working, all of that. And you see her settle for that. You grow resentment towards her for that. And you see her in a constant cycle of dating men like that. And then you don't fight. And then you find yourself in a situation where now I'm doing what I was taught. Now I'm doing what I know. Now you probably either became like that man, or you resent your mother so much that when it comes to dating women, you don't even want to date nobody in your race. You don't want to date nobody that resembles your mom. You don't want to date. You have all of these different inquiries about what this woman got to be. And it's just like, you need to heal the relationship that you had with your mother. You need to heal it. You need to acknowledge it, recognize it. And you need to tell yourself, you know what? My mom did X, Y, and Z to me. Or your mom was just emotionally abusive. She hated your father, and she see your father, and she see you at the same time because you look just like him. And she put all her energy out into you, and now you sitting here like, you know what? I don't want to date nobody. I don't want nobody, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, you can tell. And I can tell the girlies that, resent their fathers out here talking crazy to men because their mother talked crazy to the man. And now she over here got a rude mouth. The mouth is lethal. Like, she's screaming, she fussing. And most of the time she probably screaming and fussing because when her parents treated her, when she had to express herself, she couldn't get nothing out. So she felt like the only way she can get things out is when she scream and shout. So now she's screaming, shouting at her significant other, and then she's screaming, shouting at you. Like, do you see the pattern? Like, do you see the cycle just going along in a circle? Do you see it? Because I know I do. And it scares me. It scares me to know that we are still working in these cycles, that we are still operating in them, and we are not doing anything to acknowledge, to move on forward, we are just suppressing. And then we wonder why as a community we are struggling. We wonder why we are so divided. It's this whole debate on women versus men, and it's just like, you know what, I don't want no parts. And it's just like, when are we going to learn that a lot of this stuff is in our childhood? And when are we going to start picking that piece up by piece? Like, when are we going to start doing it? Because if we keep allowing it to happen, we are going to get the same outcome. We're going to get all these podcasters that be on here talking so crazy about women. We're going to get all these podcasters all here talking so crazy about men. And there's going to be no unity. We're going to have kids that don't know how to read and write. We're going to have kids out here selling themselves just for the what they think society wants them to be. Is no values, no moral, nothing involving growth and development. Like, those are the things that I'm scared of. Those are the things that I'm like, we as a generation, we gotta work better to break it. If that's your goal. If it's not your goal, then it's not your goal. It's something you want, you don't gotta carry that because it's heavy. But what I'm saying is, we deserve to be heard. Our voice deserves to be valued. When are we going to start speaking up for ourselves, advocating for ourselves? We want somebody else to do it so bad, and I think that's why we desire relationships so much. But we not advocating and doing nothing for ourselves, and then we get in relation and we're creating the same children. The things that we experience, we're creating the same thing without even knowing it. And it just looks different. And it's like, we have to do better in general. For yourself, at least. Even if you don't plan on having kids one day, do it for yourself. Why do you want to operate in that for the rest of your life? Because your parents did it and they fine? They're not fine. They struggling just like you. They don't talk about it, but they struggling. So we gotta do better as a society in the whole period. We gotta acknowledge the things that we've been through. Because if we don't acknowledge them, then we're going to stay stuck in that realm. And the longer we stay stuck in it, the longer we don't grow. And the longer we not get into the purpose and not get into the place that we need to be, that we want to be, that we desire to be. And a lot of it starts off with our parents in our childhood. And even if you don't have them here with you to acknowledge them, even if you don't have them physically here, or if it's a strained relationship, do the work yourself. It is no excuse at this point. We know too much to keep letting things happen the way they happen. And within this episode, I know it was heavy, I know it was deep, but just acknowledge, write in your diary. If you have a diary, you have a journal, start writing letters to yourself like, I forgive myself for X, Y, and Z. I forgive myself for da-da-da-da. I forgive my parents for da-da-da-da. Because those are the type of things that are like baby steps, And start speaking about your experiences. Your experiences are, what have succumbed you to who you are today, but it doesn't dictate or determine your value and what you're worth. If anything, you're worth way more. You deserve more. And until you start acknowledging the things you've been through, you're never going to see that you deserve more. And you want to keep settling for less. And then you want to continue that cycle. So acknowledge the things that you've been through in your childhood. Give a name to your trauma. Give a name to the emotions that you feel. And just start from there. And I thank you for listening to this podcast. I know it's a little longer than usual, but it's worth it. It's worth it because it's me. And continue to stay tuned for episode 4.